Objection, the witness is not responding to any questions now.
What is your question? You just keep saying, objection, objection! And then I don't know what you mean because I don't speak your language, sir.
Permission
so please.
to address my witness. Once again, please rise for the honorable judge deputy. Yes, everyone? Anyone?
Judge of
Everyone?
vaginas.
You must continue to rise. Yes? All right, they're on their feet.
You may be seated.
Sorry.
We are gathered here this evening for the trial of Ginley versus the interplanetary people of Evermore. Now, as previously stated, keep your talking to a minimum and let the trials begin. We will turn the time over to the prosecutors for their opening statements.
The case today will be made against Ginley on charges of kidnapping, slavery, incitement to violence, and murder. The floor is yours, prosecution.
Your Honor, before we begin, I have an objection. This is to be a court. The display of a double-headed axe in place of a gavel is inappropriate and prejudicial to the rights of my client.
Do you have a gavel on you?
I did not bring mine. I left it at home.
Overruled. We will proceed with the case.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sykes. I'm the town manager, and I've been asked to be the prosecution on behalf of the town of Evermore today. In this trial, I will show that since her arrival in Evermore, Miss Ginley has both systematically disrupted the peace of our town and broken the laws of the land. The evidence will show that she has not only possessed unlawful slaves on British soil, she has used them to condition and incite the town to violence. And you will also hear testimony of murder and violence. Thank you.
Your Honor, may it please the court, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client, Miss Ginley, is charged with horrible offenses. I believe as we progress that some of them are so baseless in the charges that I expect they may be dismissed before they ever reach the jury. But certainly, as to the prime offense being charged, that of murder, the alleged murder victim is alive and present in this courtroom, which makes a mockery to accuse my client of murder. I reserve further statements.
We will now proceed to the evidence being presented.
All right, on the charge of kidnapping, I move to strike, as I am the kidnapped victim and serving as the prosecution. It is inappropriate for me to move forward prosecuting the charge of kidnapping, as I cannot stand witness to the charge.
Your Honor, I thank the gentleman for his comments and his initiative, because that had not yet been presented. I had not yet objected, but I believe his motion to strike is proper and should be sustained, and I want to thank the gentleman for presenting himself rather than awaiting my making the motion at the appropriate time.
The objection and the is sustained, and the charges will be dropped.
Thank you. Moving on to the charge of slavery, I'd like to call my first witness as Sir Philip Humphrey, Postmaster of Evermore.
Bailiff, would you please swear Mr. Humphrey in?
Please, Mr. Humphrey, your right hand on the X. Do you swear and vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you Septis?
Yes, I do.
Very well. Wonderful.
Master Humphrey,
Yes.
how long have you been in Evermore?
The first or the second time?
This time.
Well, since the Aurora portal opened this last December.
This last December or the December before that?
The December before that, forgive me. Yes, the December before. Yes.
Thank you. And when you were here, you were serving as the postmaster at that time?
Yes, I was.
And at that time you met King and Queen of Aurora?
Yes, Iric and Lila.
Very good. And did you also meet the Elves of Light?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember their names?
Let me see. Maretta. Oh dear, it has been quite some time. Iona. Oh, let me see. What were the other ones? Sasa, and I believe I'm missing one. Let me see. Sasa, Iona, Maretta. Who am I missing? Am I missing anyone?
I think that will suffice the court.
Very well.
If you do remember, you can add it. But
Very well.
you met the Elves of Light before then. Can you tell the court their occupation? Sasa, Maretta, Iona.
And so on. Yes, they were the physicians or doctors, for simple terminology, for the king and queen.
Very good. So they worked for the empire or the royalty of Aurora.
Yes, and as I understand it, they were well paid for it.
Very good. So you would say that they were not, well, to your knowledge, were they enslaved?
There was no indication to such a thing.
Very good. All right. The prosecution rests.
Thank you. Postmaster,
Yes, sir.
you say there were a king and queen from Aurora who were present 2 Decembers ago.
Yes, indeed.
And how do you know that they were king and queen?
Well, they had the titles, and assuming the same sort of garb that a king and queen would normally have, it was quite clear from that, as well as from the obeisance of the other Aurorans that were present.
So, the king and queen told you they had these titles. Did you have any other independent knowledge of their titles?
Other than the other Aurorans that I had aforementioned.
All right. And you say the other Aurorans abased themselves to the king and queen.
They followed their orders when necessary.
They followed their orders. And if they did not follow their orders, what would be their fate?
To be quite frank, there was never any indication that such a thing would have to have any consequence, you see, as all orders were obeyed. The king and queen had great love from their subjects, you see.
I see. And they abased themselves out of love.
It would seem that was the case, yes.
Which is typically the way that you see others who are in love, perhaps a husband and wife, are constantly abasing themselves to the other. That's the indication of love.
Well, it depends on what kind of love you speak of.
Yes.
After all, in Greek, there are 3 different versions of the word itself, are there not?
I'm aware of the Greek differentials. However, we are not trying this in Athens or any other Greek jurisdiction. And when you say, again, that the subjects of the king and queen who came from Aurora were abasing themselves, and you assume this is out of love as opposed to some other emotion.
As far as I have been aware.
As far as you were able to observe, it's your observation. I understand. And I know that you have very astute observational skills.
I thank you for that.
And that includes the fact that the light elves, 2 Decembers ago, who were present in Evermore from Aurora, are they the same light elves that have been present this season in Aurora?
No,
They are different individuals.
Yes.
All right. So the fact that they had the name light elves does not necessarily tell you of the character of other light elves.
I suppose that is fair.
All right. I thank you for that. And what became of this king and queen of Aurora?
Well, as far as we have been made aware here, they have returned. And as there is a difference in time, as I understand it, from Aurora to our world, they perhaps have long since
Knowledge, but it may be an assumption. You believe they are deceased.
either deceased or somewhere else. I am
Somewhere else. So, in any event, they are not the current rulers of Aurora.
as far as it has been made aware to.
All right. So, any other rulers of Aurora which exist are different from those whom you met 2 seasons ago.
Yes.
All right. I thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Yes, you may step down from the stand.
Prosecution calls Tashi, an elf of light of Aurora, to the stand.
That's me.
All right, please swear her in. Right hand on the... Hold hands. There you go. Do you swear and vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? Accept it.
Yes, I will.
Very good.
Tashi, where are you from?
I'm from Aurora.
And who are your ancestors?
Oh, Sasa, Marietta, Yona, so many light elves.
Very good. So you are descendant of the same elves that Master Humphrey was speaking about.
Oh yeah, she's like our grandmother, I think is the word.
So you would definitely say that you are the same type of elf of light as they were.
Oh yeah, I hear it just
Jackson.
as good.
The term type of light elf is so nebulous, it can mean anything to anybody. I object to the imprecision of the question.
You are of the same blood.
Yeah.
Yes? Or no?
And we all do the same type of healing magic.
Very good. Therefore, being the same blood, you are of the race of the elves of light.
Indeed I am. And so is my Cisco.
And the elves of light are of what you possess capabilities, and what are they?
They are healing magic and immensity.
Very good.
But it's only the females.
Tashi, who do you serve? When you were in Aurora, who did you serve? Who did you work for?
Oh, Sora. She's so pretty.
For Sora.
Yes.
Could you, for the court, please tell us who Sora is?
Oh, there's Sora right here.
Very good. One of the dignitaries of Aurora present today.
Yeah, indeed. Some people call them Frost Lord.
Very good. And was there anyone between the two of you that you worked for?
Oh yeah, I had to work for a lot of people. Like there are people in charge of me, in charge of that person. I didn't ever directly see Sora all the time. I'm not allowed to look at her a lot.
Did you work for Miss Ginley?
I guess for a little while we were under the assumption that we were working for them, but it turned out not to be that way.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we sort of went in with them thinking that we would be performing and bringing Yuletide to everybody, but then you eat the pie and your brain goes silly and then you just think you're performing and you're actually hurting people.
What do you mean? So you were fed pie by Miss Ginley,
Yeah.
and that made you lose control of your faculties?
Yeah, it's sort of like a magic word, like abracadabra, go do this thing, and you think you're dancing and having fun, but you stab people.
So Miss Ginley approached you and you were brought under her employ, then you were fed these pies and then made to do things that you wouldn't normally do,
Exactly.
which was to hurt people?
Well, not just that, mostly get as many people to eat these pies as you could. That was her most important thing.
And what means did you use to get people to eat these pies?
Usually we would say nice things, write them poem. Oftentimes they would write notes themselves that was extra special too. And just say like, oh, we love your hair. You want the pie? You can have it. You know.
Did you ever use force to make someone eat the pie?
Not as far as I remember. Oh, Taika did.
Did you ever witness Miss Ginley using force to
No,
make someone eat pie?
not force, not like shove in face. Not like that.
All right.
But more so like, oh, you starving, have pie, you're so hungry, make you feel better. I don't think that's force, but she convinced them.
Did Miss Ginley ever make known to the people eating the pies the effects of the pies, that they would lose control of themselves?
No, not that much. She only said that it make you think that you have full tummy, and it make you really happy, which is true. But then you also get mind control. So side effect probably.
So to your knowledge, a side effect of eating pie is being mind controlled by Miss Ginley.
Yes.
Very good. Now tell me, since coming to Evermore, you're no longer under the employ of Miss Ginley, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And what is it like now? Do you have control of yourself?
Yeah, as far as I know. We've tried testing on each other. These magic words, they don't work anymore. The wolves bang their silly drum and it's like, oh, I wake up from a dream. I feel like everything is really fuzzy. I don't have very good memories about all the times with pies.
So, just to confirm, you were never paid for your work for Miss Ginley, were you?
Only in pies and food and hugs and kisses.
So a type of compensation akin that would be a slave might also receive.
That's true.
Objection, leading, and characterization of that as like a slave might receive.
Sustained.
All right.
That last part be executed from the record.
How do you feel about what Miss Ginley made you do?
It made me really angry inside because I had a lot of friends before and we were all working, dancing, play together, but because of what she did, the wolves attack us and they kill all of my friends and they would all be alive today if it weren't for her pies.
So you were forced into a war that you did not want to participate in.
Objection, leading question and bringing up some reference to war, which has not had a predicate established.
How is that leading the witness? She just said that she was fighting and killing and being killed by wolves of winter. How is that leading?
Your Honor, characterization of death is not the same as a characterization of war.
I will rescind that and change it.
Sustained.
You were forced by Miss Ginley to fight and kill and be killed.
Yes.
Very good. The defense rests. The prosecution rests.
Miss Tashi,
Yes.
how many people in Evermore have you killed?
None. Not in Evermore.
None. Oh. I thought you were claiming that Ms. Ginley caused you to kill some people in Evermore.
Not in Evermore.
Not in Evermore, I see. You arrived in Evermore with Ms. Ginley and Gaffrick,
Indeed.
correct? All right. And did you come voluntarily with them to Evermore?
I was protecting them from the wolves.
You were protecting them from the wolves. What was the nature of your relationship with them that you felt the desire to protect them and leave Aurora and come to Evermore?
They were the closest thing I had to a family.
Closest thing to a family. So it was out of affection, or was it out of pies?
Both?
Ah, so whatever is the connection between your consuming pie and feeling an affection for Ms. Ginley or Mr. Gaffrick or whoever else happened in Aurora.
Correct.
Correct. So, whatever was your state of mind when you arrived in Evermore had been established in Aurora.
Yes. But she did continue to feed us the pies there in Evermore.
But continuing to feed the pies is not the same as establishing the pies.
That's correct.
That's correct, I see. So, and you say that she wanted you to feed other people the pie, which you yourself had enjoyed.
Yes.
I see, all right. Now, you say there was some sort of control exercise over you. What are the things which you claim Ms. Ginley had you do that were against your will?
Mostly the fighting of the people.
Which was in Aurora.
Aurora, and sometimes here too.
Now, who did you fight that was here?
The wolves.
You fought the wolves? Did you inflict damage upon the wolves?
Not that I'm aware of.
Objection.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. When you fought the wolves, did you inflict damage upon them?
I guess a few bumps and bruises. Nothing like stabbing their eye out.
So, since you've been here in Evermore, which of the wolves did you bruise?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many. They all look the same to me.
They all look the same to
They all
you.
smell the same too.
I see. And Ms. Ginley told you, go hit the wolves?
Ginley and Gaffrook.
Ginley and, Gaffrook. Now we're up to Gaffrook. I see. So, the enslavement which you claim originated not in Evermore, but in Aurora.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that the charge of enslavement be stricken because there is no showing that any enslavement, if it existed, was an offense committed in Evermore.
Objection. She just admitted to being forced to do things while in Evermore, therefore being enslaved while present on British soil.
Your Honor, being told to allegedly inflict a bruise on someone is not a mark of slavery. Those are different things.
Being forced to work under someone's employ without compensation, that's called
In
slavery.
Aurora.
Here, in
In
Evermore.
Aurora.
Ms. Tasha, did it happen in Evermore or not?
Yes, we had to dance a lot and sing a lot. A lot of singing.
Regardless of what a slave does, it's still enslavement.
Your Honor,
We did have to give the pies to everybody.
you had, and what was the consequence if you did not give a pie to people?
Oh, she wouldn't give us pies.
Oh, she wouldn't give you pie.
Yeah.
And you wanted pie.
I love the pies.
You love the pie. They're good, aren't they?
They're delicious.
And you told people they were delicious. And you believed they were delicious.
Yeah.
It's not something that you had to be forced to know that when you wanted other people to eat them.
I only wanted to eat them, so I had to do things so that I could eat them.
I see. And singing and dancing, is that not part of your nature?
No, not really.
I see. So, since the banging on the drums by the wolves, have you sung?
Not really.
Not really.
No.
Does not really mean not as much as before? Does it mean not at all? Does it-
Practically not at all. I
practically
only
not. That's not the
Okay.
same as not at all. Have you sung?
Well, yeah, of course.
All right. Have you danced since then?
No.
You've never danced since then. I have not observed you dancing since then.
No. Well, I don't like to dance.
You don't like to dance. All right.
Hurts my feet.
Your Honor, I renew my objection. There is nothing that shows a slavery within Evermore. And I ask for a ruling on the motion before we proceed further.
What was that?
I ask for a ruling from the judge before we proceed further on the motion to dismiss the charge of enslavement
On what ground?
on grounds that the alleged enslavement commenced in Aurora, began there.
It is illegal to possess slaves on British soil.
That is
Whether
not,
whether it started in another country, whether it started in Africa and ended up in Britain, it's still illegal.
the question is enslavement, not possession of a slave. Enslavement is an act of creating a condition.
Possession of slaves, as stated previously.
That's not the charge as it was read. The charge as it was read was enslavement, which is the act of creating a condition of slavery.
I believe the charge as it was read, slavery.
In any event, the condition was not created in Evermore.
Continuing condition.
Was not created in Evermore. The correction for if someone brings a slave into Britain is to free them not to claim that the slavery was created against British law when it was created elsewhere.
It's not the charge at all, so go ahead.
I'm seeking a ruling from the court.
The charge of slavery be dropped.
In that case, I have no further questions of this witness.
Your Honor, I have evidence of mind control.
I know this wasn't really.
A witness that can prove that it happened here, or that can give evidence that it happened here.
It's too late.
Is it too late?
Present your evidence.
Prosecution calls Sitley to the stand.
This is the evidence.
Come forth.
We'll go up there and be sworn in.
You swear in the witness.
Right hand on the X. Here. Do you swear and vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you accept this?
Sure.
Very good.
What evidence do you have there in your hand? What is it?
So I cannot say on what day it was. Your calendar is very confusing. But a while ago, while many of these people in Evermore were under this influence of pies, I was doing some of my rounds and scouting, and I saw that there was a moment in which a letter that was delivered from Ginley triggered some of the people of Evermore to act. Let's just try to say it. So sorry, English is not my first language. So there was a letter that was given to these elves of light, and this was eventually delivered to a world walker who read it to Vela and the other one, Driner. And upon reading this letter, there was a word, delightful. They seemed to trigger them, and they grabbed Kyra.
Objection, Your Honor. This rambling narrative is all based upon saying that she observed some consequence of a letter from Ginley, but she has no personal knowledge of the writer of the letter.
Well, it says from Ginley at the bottom. It has her name on it.
I see. How familiar are you with her handwriting?
I'm sure that the elves of light are very familiar with it.
Yes, but can you identify the difference between something handwritten by Ginley and something handwritten by someone else?
Well, I got it from Vela's bag when she left it.
Can you identify the difference between Ginley's handwriting and anyone else's handwriting?
Personally, I cannot, but there are
Objection!
people here who could.
This witness doesn't need to identify it. I can have somebody else do it.
Then that should be done before she begins testifying to the alleged content of an alleged letter from my client and the alleged observation from
If you want
a...
Mr. Alleged to read it, he can come and read it.
Well, maybe if you sit down for 5 minutes, maybe we can get to it.
Behave.
Right. But anyway, they forced Kyra down, and they forced her to eat a pie very much against her will.
Objection.
Objection! My witness!
Objection to the witness is not testifying to facts of personal knowledge when she keeps referring to they.
As in Vela and Brenner, the people I referenced earlier,
Is that Ginley?
who were commanded by a letter from Ginley to do this.
Same objection. There's no predicate for this testimony. There's no foundation.
I also have sent many world walkers to speak to the elves of light and ask them.
Objection. The witness is not responding to any questions now.
What is your question? You just keep saying,
I'm-
objection, and then I don't know what you mean because I don't speak your language, sir.
Permission to address my witness. and ask her the questions you so
I'm
desperately
so
seek.
sorry. I want to answer them, but you say so many words.
Proceed with the witness.
What
Sidley,
you're saying. Uh-huh.
you're right.
Uh-huh. I just don't know.
Your English is very good.
I don't know what he means.
You're doing great. Just focus here. What he says is for the judge, not for you.
Right.
You and I are having a conversation.
Right. Sorry.
You witnessed a letter being delivered to the Elves of Light, to the Elven Rangers of Evermore. Yes? This letter then caused them to behave strangely. What did they do because
Objection. Prosecution is saying this letter caused them to.
What
Improper
happened?
question, no foundation for it.
I will rephrase. What did they do after the letter was read to them?
So, if you want, I could just explain it, how it happened, and you let me say the whole thing. And then, when I am done,
Your Honor, objection. There has been no proof that whatever was the contents of a letter which supposedly made people act in a particular way originated with the defendant.
Sustained. You there, come here. Where's the letter? Can you confirm that that is Miss Ginley's handwriting?
yes, it certainly is.
Wonderful. Let us proceed then.
Your Honor, may we have the contents of this letter read verbatim, word for word.
Bailiff, if you'll read it out loud.
Ella, Lightful, Enley.
Torn.
Your Honor, this is but a fragment of a paper that has 3 words on it which do not contain the contents which the witness is trying to establish.
They were there, they hear the word delightful, and then they grab her. They would not do this unprompted.
Objection. The witness's volunteering statement not responding to a question. I ask her statement be
So
stricken.
before you want me to talk,
The jury
Sustained.
not to consider.
Your Honor, can I have 5 minutes to talk to my witness?
it is alright if I'm not good at this.
You're doing great.
Alright.
You have somebody else who's just very eager to make you look like a fool or make me look like a fool.
And if she is really
Objection. The
sorry,
witness is volunteering a statement not
Silly.
responding to questions.
Please follow the questions.
I'm trying my best.
I could ask her a question if I could have 5 seconds to ask one. Sidley,
Ah,
you witnessed, what did you witness? What did you witness with that letter? It's an open-ended question.
the events that I witnessed this night were a letter was taken by the Elves of Light, eventually given to World Walkers, who eventually read it to Vayela and Reiner. Vayela and Reiner are behaving one way, but upon the word delightful being read, it changed everything about how they behave, and they grab Miss Kyra, and they pin her down.
Objection. The witness is not testifying to personal knowledge or observation when she said,
Silence!
when her testimony is that the letter, quote, caused.
What part of silence don't you understand?
I was not sure if you were addressing me or the witness, Your Honor.
I was addressing the room.
Very good, Your Honor.
Upon further reviewing of this evidence, I'm afraid it is not enough, and the court will be throwing out this evidence.
Thank you, Sidley.
Fine.
No further questions.
Hopefully she won't be in protective custody. It would be terrible if something bad happened to her.
Objection. I ask the witness be held in contempt of court for threatening the defendant.
Objection, you badgered the witness. Just let her go.
One of the knights keep an eye on her.
Given that, does the previous statement of the slavery charge being dropped stand, Your Honor?
Indeed it does.
All right, on to incitement then.
The bailiff is gone. Put your right hand on the axe. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you, Seftis?
I do.
Now that felt good. Take your stand.
Mr. Kerrigan, may I call you Drake?
All my friends do.
Thank you, sir. Drake, can you tell us about the incident? How to phrase that so I don't get an objection thrown in my face? Can you please tell us about the night in question involving the charge of incitement? Starting with the dance.
That was the town dance that Madame Daughtry, Madame Daughtry and the Grays decided to throw for the town, in which Gaffrick and Ginley were invited. At the time, there was a group of people who were, I guess, trying to save the town from the inside due to knowledge that the pies were bad. So the town gathered together in a dance, and 3 individuals, Mr. Sykes, myself, and Commander Iran, were all staged inside in order to bait out whatever the defendant, what do we call Miss Ginley, your client? Defendant, thank you. Back west, we only have one means of law. So the dance took place. We all had a good time. We had 3 songs that were beautifully delivered by the minstrels and the bards. And Miss Ginley and Mr. Gaffrick then took the stand, if you will. They stood on one of the little stone ledges outside by the fires and addressed everybody in a means of what seemed like goodwill. During her speech, the individuals in town who had ingested the pies immediately went rigid upon one word. And upon the second specific word, which was delighted. Evermore, we are delighted. So I guess it was a phrase, but it seemed to kick off at the end of delighted. The folks in town started acting like what would be best way I can phrase it is the Nutcracker from the play The Nutcracker, the opera.
Can you be a little more? Can you elaborate more on that? What do you mean by? Tell us what their body did.
Oh, do you mind if I stand up and
go ahead?
All right.
Yes.
So upon that word, they all went stiff as a board. And then upon that second phrase, evermore we are delighted, it was just almost stiff as can be. At that time, me, Ron, and Sykes got up to run. Given that, I guess things went sideways on us, the Rangers, the Elven Rangers, the Mythosian Rangers, if you will, started acting in a means that was extremely aggressive. They chased us extremely thoroughly through town. I don't know if you know this about them, but they're a little quick. They caught up to us. They ambushed us, disarmed myself, and I ran.
So they attacked you?
Yes, sir.
Continue.
We ran to the fair. We dispatched to the Fairy Gardens, kind of took a left, in which they then went to assault Bartholomew, and you yourself stood in the way. And at the time, you confronted, I believe, Nightshade, and came to dagger with him. He disarmed you. The elves got the upper hand on you, though you allowed Bartholomew to escape. Myself and Commander Iran then continued to signal the rest of the group that we had ready to, which was all means trying to stage an ambush. We were then cornered at the edge of town over by the burrows and the Celtic ruins, where we were then put into a tight spot where the entire town was facing us, as well as the Rangers and Mr. Gaffrick and Miss Ginley. The Wolves, myself, and Commander Iran, along with a few other folk, and I know I'm missing let's see, Ollie, Roe, And my mistake, I can't seem to remember the rest. But there we were, lined up, backs to the wall. And at that time, Mr. Gafford made a speech, and they kept reacting to what seemed like commands. And then he broke your leg. And at that point, we heard the drums of the Ulfdraat. As he came in, it seemed to break the hold that they had on the town. And Mr. Gafford and Miss Ginley then proceeded to leave town.
Thank you. So this incident of you being backed to the edge of town, can you describe a bit more what the townsfolk were doing?
As I kind of showcased earlier, they were moving in a very, very strict manner. But upon that, I'm going to demonstrate again. Upon them moving forward some more, you mind holding that for me? Thank you. They circled us, they surrounded us. I had my gun drawn, but I had Driner in front of me, and I didn't want to wing or take down anybody that wasn't the target.
So they backed you into a corner.
Correct. They circled up in kind of a semicircle, and then upon one word, they all kind of crossed arms, or locked arms. I can't quite remember in full, but then they dropped to their knees to create somewhat of a gate that we couldn't escape through. Thank you, ma'am.
Would you say that this was an act of violence?
From the townsfolk point of view, no. However, the Rangers did seem like it was a direct act of violence. The townsfolk did not seem to do any harm to anybody.
So the Rangers, the Elven Rangers, enacted the violence, but aided and blocked in by the rest of the town.
Correct.
And the rest of the town was incited by the speech given by Miss Ginley at the dance.
Objection, asking the witness to conclude that the incitement was caused by words spoken by Ms. Ginley other than other causes. It's a leading question beyond the ability of the witnesses, the scope of what the witnesses testified to.
Sustained.
Allow me to rephrase. In your opinion, what led to the town acting erratically?
Objection. Mr. Drake's opinion is not the same as a fact that should be admitted into evidence, especially his conclusion of the charge as opposed to his personal knowledge.
Sustained.
Right, Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah.
What do you do for work?
Well, I'm a Blackheart hunter.
What does a Blackheart hunter do?
The Blackheart hunter's job is to eradicate things of dark nature and magical entity.
So would you say that you deal with violence frequently?
I think you could call me a specialist in that regard.
So you would be qualified to then speak to the court on what violence looks like.
Well, I mean, you could probably ask anyone else in town, they'd probably say yes.
So in your specialist view, what happened after Mrs. Ginley's speech?
What happened after is that the town was taken over by magical means. Magical means ingested through the pies, which were then enchanted by the group in question, the Elves of Light and Miss Ginley, using, heard it was light magic. Light magic stems from a price that is unpaid and unknown. After they were enchanted, it seemed like it was caused through means of telekinesis. Telekinesis is a magical form that is used to operate someone's body through the means of their mind. So through that enchantment being used as a tool into these pies, and it usually means there has to be a triggered scenario of sorts, which means that trigger would have been words inscribed into the intent of the magic placed upon the pies, in my specialist opinion.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Drake, thank you for your work.
I don't know if I can say
Evermore.
I don't know if I can say you're welcome. I don't exactly like it.
Well, it's not pleasant, but it is necessary.
You're well.
And your work is to protect the innocent, correct?
Now, yes and no.
Is it not protecting the innocent, or is it the fact that it goes beyond protecting the innocent?
It goes beyond, sir.
Goes beyond, all right. So, but your job is to protect, and that includes protecting the innocent.
Yes, sir.
And that includes making sure that nobody is falsely accused or falsely punished.
Yes, sir.
And in your testimony, you have established a chronology that when they heard a particular word, people reacted. Now, and you believe that was from black magic.
Not black magic, sir. Very succinct types of magic.
Very good, but the point is it was magically induced.
Yes.
All right. Now, it is possible for someone to be told, put it this way, it is possible for magic to use a trigger from an innocent person, is it not?
Correct.
So the person placing the magical command will typically not be the one who themselves provides the trigger. They wish to deflect the blame to someone else. Correct?
Again, you're into a yes and no.
Objection, sir.
That is common, correct?
Again, yes and no.
Well, if it's yes and no,
Yeah.
that means sometimes it's common.
Objection,
sometimes it's not.
circumstantial. Yes or no, either way, circumstantial.
Sustained.
You are aware that innocent people are used to trigger magic caused by someone else.
Yeah.
All right. And the person that you saw attack Sykes and break his leg was Gaffrick.
Yes, sir.
And you are familiar with Gaffrick. You were there when he was tried and banished from
town.
And you're aware that Gaffrick was found guilty, banished, and outside of Evermore, executed for his deeds in Evermore.
Under a wolf tribunal, yes.
Yes, all right. I'm not questioning the authenticity or the authority of that. The point is the fact that Gaffrick was committing acts of black magic that worked through other people, correct?
Again, not black magic.
Magic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Objection,
Magic
Mr.
at work.
Gaffrick isn't on trial. We're talking about Miss Ginley today.
Mr. Gaffrick, the court can take judicial notice of the fact that Gaffrick has been found guilty of using magical means to the detriment of people of Evermore, to put it mildly.
Indeed, what is your point?
The point is that the fact that people may have reacted to a word spoken by the defendant is not the same as saying the defendant had caused them to act. It is merely establishing that that was by some person used as a triggering mechanism. That is the point. And the charge...
Objection, the counsel is testifying, not the witness. Save it for your closing arguments.
I'm making a motion to the court.
Well, then get on with it.
That's what I'm doing, and I thank you for the privilege of doing so, sir. The charge is inciting a riot. Incitement is a willful act causing a result of violence, as opposed to an innocent act that someone else has used as a signal to others. There is no proof of any act by Ms. Ginley that incited a riot. Only that she uttered an innocent phrase, "We're delighted to be here," which is certainly as common and innocent as they come.
You should come talk to the Blackheart sometimes and talk to you about innocence.
I ask that this charge be dismissed.
The charge of incitement shall be dropped.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. No further questions.
Bailiff Matty, excuse me. Thank you.
And I do thank you for your service to Evermore, sir. Thank you.
Well, like I said, you're welcome, but I'm not exactly happy to do it.
The prosecution calls Sir Thaddeus of the Knights of Evermore to the stand.
We swear in his name.
You swear in vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you set this.
I do. Very good. Wonderful.
Sir Thaddeus, can you tell the courtroom what is currently in your possession?
This is the arrow that was used to kill or maim the body that was formerly possessed by Stan.
Mr. Splanifir?
Svan.
Could you, for the court, state your name again?
Svan Mayfish.
Splanifir. Splanifir. That is the murder weapon?
This is the one.
That what?
This is the one. Aye.
Thank you. If you'll submit that to the bailiff. Sir Thaddeus, there's currently with it, the Knights of Evermore currently possess a corpse, do they not?
They do.
And it is the corpse of, that looks like that one?
It's the spitting image of him, aye.
And it was the corpse that arrow was found in?
Correct.
Where was it found?
I was found, so it looked like he'd actually pulled it out near the opening of the catacombs, underneath the mausoleum.
Where
Right.
was it?
Thank you. No further
It
questions.
was right there. Here, chest, aye.
Here.
Sir Thaddeus, you're aware of the time when this corpse was discovered at the mausoleum?
Aye, it was shortly after about 8 o'clock, after I'd gone to check on the Elves of Light.
And after the trial which occurred previously, including Gaffrick and Ginley and so forth, the Knights have had custody of Miss Ginley, correct?
That is correct.
All right. At the time that this individual was killed, was Miss Ginley in your custody?
She was.
Where was she? Was she in your sight?
Aye, she was in the pergola. She was either in my sights or Sir Ron's sights the entire evening.
And did you see her kill somebody since you were watching her the entire evening?
No.
So whoever killed him was not the person that you were with, who was the defendant, Miss Ginley.
Not from my understanding, it could not have been Miss Ginley.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Prosecution calls the hearing to the stand.
You swear in vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you set this.
Yes.
I've been better.
Tell me, Kazarian, you perform magic, do you not?
I do.
What type?
Illusion primarily.
Good. And illusion magic. Is illusion magic capable of making it seem like someone's in two places at once?
In theory, yes.
It's possible.
Yes. It's very difficult, but it's possible.
Right? And to your knowledge, does Miss Ginley perform magic?
To my knowledge, she performed some kind of magic. I ate it. But illusion magic, I don't. I have no idea.
You have no idea. But she does, to your knowledge, perform magic, and it is possible to make someone appear like they're in two places at once.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Just to be sure, sir, you have no knowledge that this very difficult magical skill is possessed by her.
Oh no.
You don't. You have no knowledge. Is that correct?
Yes. You could.
Okay.
You could
Do you
have-
possess that skill?
Yes.
All right. And it's a very difficult skill, which speaks to your renown, sir.
Well, thank you, but yes.
All right. So the fact that a difficult skill exists is not the same as saying she possesses it. Correct?
No, it's not the same.
It's not the same. That is correct.
Yes, that is correct.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Nothing further.
Prosecution calls Splanather to the stand. That once again for us.
It's Svan Mayfish. You can call me Svan Mayfish. It's simple for you.
If you would come to the stand.
Right hand. You swear in vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you set this.
Thank you.
Sir, would you tell us your name and where you're from?
I am Svan Mayfish Dacia then. One of the Frost Lords of Aurora.
Objection is dead.
Yeah.
That's not your say.
I am
Is it true that you were attacked?
It is true, yes.
Could you tell us about the events of that night?
Well, I was rather.
Of the attack.
The attack itself, yes. Very well. But I was looking around in the catacombs. Two were led by the very gracious postmaster Sir Philip Humphrey, and I was a little caught up in my admiration of the architecture of the place and of the catacombs in particular, and I am afraid that I was caught off guard, and an arrow was in my chest.
Do you know who did that to you?
I suspect it to be Ginley.
You suspect?
Objection, suspicion, and knowledge are two different things.
What I observed and experienced was that it was Ginley.
Objection, experience, and knowledge and observation. Again, he's testifying to opinion, not to facts.
Experience and knowledge are what?
That is opinion.
Experience is based on the senses.
Did you witness that woman present during the attack?
Yes.
Did she attack you?
That is what I experienced. That is what I saw.
Thank you. Now, do you have any idea as to why she would want to harm you and kill you?
Well, I can speculate on motive, considering what we had. Perhaps it could be considered to some as betrayal. That they would rush to us, Gaffrick and Ginley in particular, would rush to us in for some sort of protection after what their retaliation they experienced.
So is it true that you brought Miss Ginley back to Evermore?
Yes.
And turned her over to the town of Evermore for her crimes?
Yes.
Now, seeing that you are still standing here present today, could you elaborate on perhaps why she might want to kill you? Did she know that you have the ability to come back to life, however that is?
It is only knowledgeable by very close associates of ours, and she is not one of them.
So she didn't know that?
Yes.
And yet she tried to kill you?
Yes.
No further questions?
What is your full title as well as your full name, sir?
Ashton Sunday, Dixie Abbey.
And full title?
Yes, this is Frostlord Ashton.
Are there Frostlord what again, please?
Ashton.
Hashton.
Yes.
Does that have a meaning?
It is the equivalent of Frostlord, as you would say. Lord in common?
It's like saying Lord twice.
Yes, Lord.
Very good. All right. And are the Frostlord the rulers of Aurora?
Indeed, sir.
You are the rulers of Aurora. For how long?
Over a decade.
For over a decade. And were you preceded by this king and queen who have been mentioned in court previously?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you rule Aurora. You live in a palace, castle, something such as that.
Indeed, we do.
All right. You have servants.
Yes.
All right. You have vassals, people with fealty to you, who have their loyalty to you as their lord.
Yes.
All right. And they obey your commands.
Yes.
They do. What are the consequences if they disobey?
The consequences vary depending on what the law decides.
I see. What is the most severe of the consequences?
The most severe of the consequences is death.
Is death. All right. For disobedience can be death. All right. Now, you say you observed Ms. Ginley, and you heard the testimony of Sir Thaddeus that Ginley was with him at that time. Yes. Now, are you familiar with magic, sir?
Yes, I am.
All right. Is magic used with regularity in Aurora?
Indeed it is.
All right. Do you have magical abilities yourself?
I do, sir.
You do, including the ability to come back to life.
Yes.
How many times have you exercised that ability?
It had to have been more than 20 times.
More than 20 times, see? And would you give us a description of your other magical powers?
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, we're claiming that magic was involved in his murder.
No, we're not.
I wanted to know what are his magical skills.
She stabbed an arrow in him. That's not magic.
He claims he saw someone, but their testimony was actually someplace else. And you have adduced testimony that some people have certain magical skills, though not Ms. Ginley. So I'm asking about his magical skills.
I've already established that she has magical skills by the Elves of Light previous testimony.
Your Honor, the question is his magical skills. That's the question for the witness.
Objection, relevance.
Establish the relevance.
Please state your magical skills and be quick about it.
Well, it is primarily manipulation of the water element.
Wonderful.
Anything else?
Only dabble here and there, of course. Illusion is not one of them.
Illusion is not one of them. Are there illusionists within Aurora?
Certainly.
Certainly. And they are part of your kingdom, as it were, of Aurora, that you rule over. You have illusionists who are subject to your command, correct?
Yes, I would not call them primarily illusionists.
All right, but they may not be primarily illusionists, but they are illusionists who are subject to your command, and your commands could be punishable by death if they are not obeyed, correct?
It could be, yes.
Very good. Thank you. No further questions.
Wonderful. We will hear our closing statements beginning with the defense.
I have a witness to present, Your Honor.
Be quick about it.
Ms. Ginley? Ms. Ginley?
Objection, swearing.
Certainly.
Please. Tom, right hand.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you set this.
Ms. Ginley, we have heard testimony that Mr. I hope I do not pronounce the name incorrectly, Mr. Ginley, Ross Lord Ginley, saying he was killed with an arrow. Did you do it?
No, sir.
You know when it was alleged that it was done. Where were you at that time?
I was with the knights.
Do you have the ability to create magical illusions?
No, I don't.
Now, you also have been accused of different things, which charges have been dismissed. They're not before the jury. The only charge before at the moment is murder of a living person. Now, what is your wish regarding yourself and your relationship with Evermore?
May I say a few words?
That is my question.
As I have been here in Evermore, I've noticed that this lately, as I've mentioned before, is a time of questioning, and has caused me to also question myself. And I ask questions of you, one of which is, can someone be force-fed who is asking to be fed? And also, have you ever had to choose between the lesser of two evils? And have you ever had to choose between the lesser of two evils so often that you lose sight of it?
Objection! This isn't answering the question of what she wants, what her wish is with Evermore. This is a speech about something else.
Stay. Ms. Ginley, regardless of what offenses you may have committed in Aurora, you are only accused now of one offense here in Evermore, a charge of murder. Now, are you familiar with the Frost Lords in Aurora?
Yes.
You've heard the testimony of one of them that disobedience to their commands can be punishable by death. Have you had personal conflict with the Frost Lords seeking to command you?
Yes.
And Did they make any threats against you?
Yes.
What were the threats? Simplify, if you would, please.
Well, as they mentioned, death.
You are aware of offenses committed by the Frost Lords in Aurora.
Objection, relevance.
It is relevant, Your Honor.
Saying it's relevant doesn't make it relevant. Explain.
Because the motivation of the Frost Lords to frame my client.
Continue.
The offenses by the Frost Lords in Aurora, which you are aware, would you give a quick explanation of those?
They rule
Were you threatened by them?
Yes.
You have knowledges of offenses by them which involve taking of other people's lives.
Yes.
And are you aware that they have magical abilities, including the ability personally or by commanding use of illusions?
I believe so.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
The witness is yours, Mr. Sykes.
No questions.
You are excused. Now we will continue with the closing statements by the defense.
Defense, rest, and I do ask that the murder charge be dismissed because the alleged victim is here in the courtroom, alive and breathing.
Objection, a body has been established.
We do have a body, so we will continue with the charge.
We also have a live person. Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Ginley, as a subject in Aurora, committed offenses there where she was subject to the rule and command of the Frost Lords, who brought her to Evermore, who accused her of murdering one of their own, which was an easy thing to frame if you can make yourself look dead and you're not really dead, because you've done it 20 times before. But if you're trying to establish yourselves in Aurora, not in Aurora, but in Evermore, and look beneficent, as opposed to tyrants who threaten people with death for disobedience, then if you have someone from Aurora who's a witness of that, what easier way than, hey, I can die and I can really die and come back, I can create the illusion. But Sir Thaddeus, where is his motivation? Having continuous, not just momentary, but continuous observation of Miss Ginley. Having had her placed in the care of the knights. It's not like, well, let's check in the room and see if someone's still there and they do some sort of trick or substitution. It's constant observation. It's not a trick or an illusion. The trick or the illusion is, hey, I can die, frame someone for my death, make them look guilty, and bring this charge.
Looks like I've been found out.
We've seen the series of dismissal of charges that were based upon false accusations. Well, because she uttered some word that somebody else had used as a signal. That sort of stuff. Miss Ginley has testified to you clearly. She didn't do it. The Frost Lord, who has command of illusionists, says, oh, I did, but, you know, she didn't really kill me. It's a pretty simple case in that sense. I'm not here to say Ginley never did anything wrong, especially in Aurora. She wants to be a functioning, contributing part of this community of Evermore, which she attempted to testify to. But it's for you to decide. How does she kill someone who's not dead? So, I ask you, bring back a verdict of not guilty. And I also, as advocate with caution, have to say, beware of what else the Frost Lords might be doing, as Kyra came back from Aurora and assaulted more people. I rest.
Thank you, Mr. Sides. Make a closing statement, so please keep it short.
My desk, Your Honor. Use the chair. For obvious reasons. I'll be honest with all of you. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing in this chair right now. I don't know why I'm sitting here. I don't know why I'm the prosecution. Apparently I'm the only one qualified. Well, we can all see how well that played out. But here's what I can tell you. I am sick and tired of people coming into Evermore and hurting our people, my friends, our town. I'm sick of seeing them get hurt as well. I don't wish her any ill will. I don't care. I've come to terms with and come to peace with what's happened to me in my leg. I don't hold it against her. I've no vendetta, no axe to grind. That's his job. How do you kill someone who isn't dead? How do you convict someone of murder when the person is still walking around? Well, quite frankly, I don't know how either. The laws of the Queen and of this land have failed us. There's no precedence for this. A man was killed. There was a corpse. There was a body. We all know that magic is real. People making the laws, they don't. All of you have seen magic with your own eyes, and you know that it's real. And you can look into your hearts and you can feel that it's real. There are some things we just don't know. In our knowledge, we're in our infancy. But our knowledge here at Evermore of magic surpasses what the Crown knows about magic and how to make laws. I don't care what kind of people they are. That's not what's our contest. Just because they may have to be doing things in Aurora that we're not quite fond of doesn't mean they deserve to be attacked on our soil. That's the way to build relations. But you want to know the real reasons why? I would like to ask each and every one of you. The bring back a conviction of guilt. It is because if you find her not guilty, she will walk out of this building and I cannot guarantee her safety. As a representative of this town, there are no preventative measures that I can take, no protection that I can offer her to keep her safe from what will happen.
Objection, improper. Sit down! Claiming that she is safer if she is guilty.
Once again, I don't know what I'm doing. But if you walk out, if she walks out those doors, I don't know what's going to happen to her, and I don't want her to die. She's expressed guilt and remorse and a desire to grow, and I can't guarantee that for her if she leaves. So keep her here. Let her have the reform she seeks. Let her subject herself to the part of the system that we know that does work. Here at Evermore, we treat people like people. We treat them with respect. We'll help them. We'll help them find a place in society once again. I ask you to give us the chance. Find her guilty. Let us then work with her to become a functioning member of society once again. Thank you.
jury some time to come to a verdict. Before I let you free, there is no precedent for this. So I ask you to come back with a conviction and a verdict, but also a suggestion of punishment. This does not mean that that will be the punishment that is observed. However, I invite you to give one nonetheless.
Objection. Your Honor has asked the jury to come back with a conviction, which is absolutely improper.
Guess what? It's overruled.
Only 10 minutes to deliberate. We don't have much time. In the meantime, you may stick around here. We will return very shortly.
Jury, please follow the bailiff.
I may not have the authority to do this, but on behalf of the Honorable Judge Septis, I call this court into order.
I'm here.
Very good. Our jury has come to a verdict for the charges of murder against one Miss Ginley that will be presented.
Jury has decided innocent.
The verdict is not guilty. Ginley will be treated as such, yes? I will allow the people who know what they're doing to talk.
We ask the defendant be released from custody, but however she be placed under protection of the threats that have been voiced against her in open court.
Yes, you've asked a lot of things this evening, haven't you?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have been found innocent of these charges, therefore the charges of murder will be dropped. And as for the threats against you, well, I will have words with Chief Inspector Ozymandias to see what we might be able to do to protect you against these threats for what it's worth.
Thank you.
The trial of Ginley versus the interdimensional people of Evermore has come to a close.
You're all excused.
Can I help you?
What will you do with her now?
Well, until we can make any further decisions, she is to remain in Evermore.
In custody.
Yes, she has paid for some private security.
Right.
Indeed.
Will she be allowed to walk the streets safe?
Indeed.
She'll be allowed to buy food and shelter.
Indeed.
No repercussions.
That's correct.
Nothing. Not even a slight manicure on her.
I don't believe I stuttered at all.
This is the justice this town provides. This is the justice outside of Aurora.
Correct. Now, is there anything else I can do with this little, interaction, or are we done here?
I hope you realize what mistake you have made.
Oh, I've made lots of mistakes in my life, and this is not the biggest one.
We will see about that.
Wonderful.
Clear the path for Ultra.
Show him.